Well, hello. My name's Peter Van Brady, and I'm the author of Avoiding Mistakes and Crushing Your Deals Using Your VA Loans. Pretty popular on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. You can get a copy for 20 bucks there, or if you're on our website, go to the top, get Intel and Resources drop down, and you can utilize that copy as our gift to you. Also, the founder of SoCal VA Homes, where we believe we've created easier and better ways to utilize your VA loan to buy a home. And today we're going to talk about the VA construction loan. This is a one-time close construction loan where you can buy land and build a home using your VA benefit, all for zero down and zero closing. That's the ideal scenario, and that's a tall order. It's such a tall order, in fact, that makes it, almost impossible to find this loan and properly execute it. Why is it such an anomaly? Why is it such a unicorn in the industry? It's because this loan is a tremendous amount of work, and lenders don't get paid until loans fund. So they've got to build, all that fallout into our process, and the probability for these transactions to close is much less than a typical transaction. It's just a ton of work, and there's a lot of risk in it. For an explanation of all these layers of risk and how they're addressed, I've got another video with tens of thousands of views. If you're on our website, it's further down the page. I recommend you take a look at that video as well. But let's talk about all of the challenges that you need to overcome to utilize the one-time close VA construction loan. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and we're going to check it all out. All righty. So, it's a huge advantage because it's 100% financing, right? Where can you get 100% financing to literally buy land and build a home? Well, this is it. This is the only place. And it's one set of underwriting. So it's one underwriting experience as opposed to two. We'll talk about that, which makes it a little less hassle. And you're going to have more peace of mind because you're qualified and you're only, applying for a loan once. It should be a lower collective closing costs, or in a single set of closing costs, lower than a construction loan and then a takeout loan. We'll talk about that in a moment. Which would be a two-step or two times closed process. However, the VA rate could be higher than a takeout rate. What is a takeout rate? Well, this is a construction term where the final conventional or government financing, the final financing basically takes out or replaces the VA construction loan. And that takeout financing, depending on the market, could be a lower rate than this VA rate because it requires a huge long-term lock, 6 to 9 months with an extension, and that adds a lot of cost. We'll talk about that a little bit more in detail, but it could save you. I mean, let's rewind to, say, the summer of 2021. What if you had applied for the loan back then and you got a huge long-term lock? Rates doubled and tripled over the next 9 to 12 months, and you'd be a hero, even though it could be, several points by the time you dissect it all and look at the actual cost of the long-term lock. But boy, if you ended up with, 2 or 3% versus, 5, 6, 7%, you're a hero, and it was money well spent. Okay, well, let's compare that just a little bit. You always want to compare your options, and obviously we can help that. We provide all sources of construction financing as it relates to helping veterans, including the two-time close. But in relationship to the closing costs of a VA construction loan, a takeout loan to replace a construction loan it's a refinance, and the closing costs on a refinance are much lower than a purchase. So relatively speaking, if it's a two-step process, your closing costs for the second step or the takeout or traditional VA financing is just a refinance, and they're minimal as it relates to or compared to closing costs on the construction loan. All right, well, let's talk about the challenges that you're going to have to overcome to achieve success with this program. Okay, you got to be the captain of the ship. You've got to be the pilot of the plane. There's a lot of stuff that you need to put together, and no one's going to do it for you. We can provide you guidance, but essentially you're going to have to be dedicated and committed to this process. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. You got to coordinate your real estate agent and your contractor, or perhaps it's a manufacturing home, your dealer and your manufacturer, as well as your lender. Lender's the easy part. As we get started together in this process, the pre-approval is the same pre-approval that we would produce whether you're simply buying a home or, for that matter, doing a VA cash out refinance, because the credit equity or credit income and asset documentation is all the same for all three of these transactions. So the pre-approval is simple. That's like stepping up to the plate, to use a baseball analogy. Getting around the bases is truly the endeavor of executing on your building of the home. So let's go back to the real estate agent here. Few agents literally specialize in land only. Why is that? It's economics. A piece of land is typically a quarter or a fifth the value of a property that's got a dwelling on it. Therefore, the commission to transact that they're going to get paid is a quarter or the fifth. And the amount of volume that an agent would be doing if they're focusing on land only would presumably be less than if they were focusing on dwellings or typically home sales. And they'd have to do 5 times the volume. So if you can find an agent that's only focusing on land, or that'll give you the time of the day to stick with you and see this process all the way through, then you've definitely found the right resources. There's just going to be less assistance in this endeavor. So we get a lot of calls from folks who've been on the real estate portals with, realtor.com and Redfin and Trulia and all the rest, Zillow. You can find land for sale, and then often working with the listing agent who will help you as the buyer, even though that's dual agency. And I don't really like that because it's a conflict of interest, but that may be the best way to get it done. But still, we can provide assistance and guidance. And in Southern California, we're providing more of that. As we expand nationally, we can provide more and more guidance. But as it relates to finding the land and getting under contract, you're going to have to pilot that plane and be the captain of the ship. All righty. And land, by the way, comes in, I like to say, many ways, shapes, and forms, so to speak, right? So as it relates to putting together the transaction and the economics of different types of land, to take Los Angeles County, we get a lot of these calls, and people, if you're out in Lancaster, that's one thing, but we get a lot of calls that people want to, build in and around the city, and there's just no land left unless it's on a 30% slope. that's about the way it works in LA County. So in that case, do you need a geological or soil survey? Does it need grading? Oops, that's misspelled. That's an extra expense. How do you get the water in? Is it municipal water? You're going to have to go out and drill a well. That's an additional expense. Is the sewer already brought in? Are you going to have to consider septic? How far does the electrical have to come to get it all done? All of these elements are really variable cost structures, which add cost to the total build and need to be considered. Okay. We get a lot of calls from folks that are contractors or no contractors, or have family members that are contractors. Not going to work. There are no DIY projects here. You cannot do it yourself with you or a family member. That's just a conflict of interest. We're lending money out to essentially to a third party to complete a blueprinted build for you. And And you can understand that lenders are going to be hesitant to loan it out to a owner builder. So no DIY projects. Your contractor must be registered with the VA. So let's talk about that for a quick second. If you Google VA builder approval, okay, this is what you're going to come up with right here. And this first result is what needs to happen. You don't need to get the builder approved by the VA. Just register. They only need to register. There is no builder approval by the VA. They need to take these 3 forms and get them into the regional loan center. And it takes about 5 days for them to get their VA builder ID. It's not too difficult, easy to fill out the forms, but it's an extra step for the builder to get done. They need to be approved. We'll talk about that next. We do not recommend builders or manufactured home dealers or contractors. Just don't. You're going to have to go out there in the open marketplace and figure it out yourself. And that's it just makes it simpler for us and eliminates liability and all that good stuff. So some people say, well, where do I start? You could essentially go here after this Google search, and you could search for builders that are approved by the VA. It's pretty simple. Let's say that you're looking in, we mentioned Los Angeles. You'd say LA in the state of California, and we submit our search, and you get 3,186 results. So there's a ton of licensed contractors who are registered with the VA. And then you just start searching through them and find them and talk to them and determine whether you think it's right for you or not. All righty. Oops. Where do we go here? Continuing. Oh, come on now. There we go. All righty. Builder's got to be approved with the investor or lender. What's that mean? Well, because we want to be lending and advancing funds to a reputable entity, which will complete the home for you and thereby convert the construction portion of the loan to a final VA loan, which is then able to be securitized into the Ginnie Mae pools like a traditional VA loan. They all work that way. We've got to wrap our arms around essentially the integrity and viability of the builder, the contractor. Sometimes that might be the dealer in the manufactured homes case. So they've got to be approved, in this case, not registered, but the builder has to be approved by the lender / investor. So that's going to take E&O insurance, fidelity, workers' comp, tax returns, resumes, all sorts of financials. It's a lot of work, and it's an extra step for the builder to help you as a veteran. And if they're not willing to do it, you can't get the loan. So builder's got to be registered with the VA and approved with the lender, period. Also, it's important to consider the maximum upfront draw, especially for contract deposits, particularly on manufactured homes. What does all that mean? It means that lenders have their own guidelines and criteria as it relates to advancing funds from what is essentially a credit line. So if you're buying a home using the funds, then, or excuse me, you're buying land, then the first thing they're going to do is pay for closing costs, right? And buy the land. Next thing that happens is typically a deposit's going to go out, especially on a manufactured home. Certainly on a stick build too, there's going to be some sort of upfront deposit. And the lender has their own guidelines, their own propensity for the way they want this to work. So does the manufacturer. And they may not dovetail together correctly because everybody has their own ways that they want to get business done. And as a lender, we're available to help coordinate this, but ultimately it's your job as the pilot of the ship, the pilot of the plane, the captain of the ship, to make sure that these two entities dovetail together correctly, and it's going to work for your lender and your builder. Okay, let's talk about the actual economics that are involved, especially in your final loan amount on the pre-approval and executing moving forward into contract. The final loan amount and construction cost breakdown economics are such that it all needs to fit within the loan amount. And this is really important. The closing costs are often high. Well, they are just higher than a typical purchase and certainly higher than a refinance. That's because there's so much work involved, and there's administrative costs having to do with construction, draws and inspections and just underwriting the whole construction cost breakdown and the borrower's, qualifications along with the builder. It's a ton of work, and it's a more expensive process. Most people think, whoa, I'm going to buy a piece of land for $100,000. The build is going to be 1,000 square feet at $250 a foot. I need $250,000 there. My all-in price is $350. I'm good to go. No, not the way that it works. There's all sorts of other costs that need to be included in the all-in price and therefore in the loan amount that you're pre-approved for. So you start with the closing costs and then the lock expense. Whether that lock expense is built into the rate, there's always a way to build things into a rate by increasing a rate, covering closing costs. We've done that for, years, decades. Whether it's increasing the rate or whether it's increasing the price of the total build, one way or another, these, few points have to be paid. And that's going to increase the cost because we've got to know as a lender that you're qualified, that rate's locked in. And when we convert and pay off that construction draw with the permanent VA loan, that you're still qualified. The only way to do that is with a lock. And you can see between 2021 and 2022, how important that element would be. Permitting, of course, there's an expense there. All the permitting, the entitlement, that's going to be, a cost to the transaction. The construction draw, interest expense, where funds are drawn from the credit line, from your loan, your construction loan, in sequence, and construction draw interest accumulates, and then another draw and more interest accumulation. That's all an expense to the entire transaction and needs to be factored into the construction cost breakdown. Then finally, the construction budget contingency, often 5% or more, needs to be factored into your pre-approval. So let's say that you're building a home for $475,000, $500,000, 5% would be $25,000. You need to have a loan amount that's approved for $500,000 with an all-in build price of $475,000 to cover that overage that's unexpected. If you're not pre-approved for that much, then we've got incorrect economics. You can see there's a lot that goes into this transaction. And we really, really encourage you on this page, if you're on our website, to get the plan to build. There's a form, insert your information, hit that submit button, get the plan to build. That explains a lot more about this program. Let's make sure that one way or another, if you've watched both the videos, taken a look at my book, there's a whole chapter on the loan and the construction loan in the book. You need to avail yourself of all the resources in this website. And if there's things that you still don't understand, certainly give us a call. Obviously, we can't help you without that step. But if there's other information about other parts of the VA loan process you want to learn about, if you go to the bottom of any of our pages, there's a gray search window, and you can type in the question or the topic that you're interested in. And there's information on our website on every topic, and you will discover it without a problem. I hope this was helpful for us, or for you, excuse me. Please give us a call and tell a friend. Most of our business comes by referral. And my name's Peter Van Brady, founder of SoCal VA Homes. If we can help you in any way, we sincerely look forward to it. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for your service. and we'll look forward to talking to you real soon.